The universe is mostly silence, a cold and indifferent vacuum that swallows the screams of dying suns without so much as a blink. My name is Professor Morgan Vance, and I have spent 41 years trying to translate that silence into the language of mathematics. High atop the jagged peaks of the Pyrenees, inside an observatory made of brass, glass, and stubborn isolation, I hunt for the unseen. I search for Planet X, the hidden weight that tugs at the skirts of our solar system. I believed that logic was the only compass worth holding. I believed that if a thing could not be measured, tracked, or categorized by a telescope, it simply did not exist. I was a woman of iron laws and silvered mirrors, until the night the sky decided to bleed. It was the peak of the Leonid meteor shower, 1894. The heavens were supposed to put on a predictable display of celestial debris, but at precisely 3 minutes past midnight, the chronometer on my desk stopped dead. The air in the dome grew thick with the smell of ozone, and a light, violet, blinding and impossible, tore through the atmosphere. It didn't streak across the horizon. It fell straight down, a jagged bolt of silver that struck the ridge less than a mile from my balcony. The impact didn't sound like rock hitting earth. It sounded like a harp string snapping with the force of 1,000 thunderstorms. I found her in the smoking heart of the crater. I expected a meteorite, a charred lump of iron and nickel that I could polish and name. Instead, I found a girl. She lay amidst the scorched heather, her body radiating a soft, rhythmic pulse of light that made the shadows dance in terror. She was barely 20, her skin the color of starlight on a frozen lake, and her hair a wild, translucent cloud of white silk. She wasn't breathing. She was vibrating, humming at a frequency that made my teeth ache and my heart hammer against my ribs. Logic, I whispered to the empty mountain air, my voice trembling as I reached out. Logic dictates this is an atmospheric anomaly, a trick of the light. Then she opened her eyes. They weren't brown or blue or green. They were nebulae, swirling vortexes of violet and gold, containing the birth and death of stars I hadn't even discovered yet. She looked at me, and I felt the weight of the entire cosmos settle onto my shoulders. She reached out a hand, and when her fingers brushed mine, I didn't feel heat. I felt the thrum of a pulsar. I felt the pull of gravity. I felt the terrifying, beautiful realization that everything I knew about the world was wrong. I carried her back to the observatory, her body as light as a handful of feathers, her silver glow illuminating the treacherous mountain path. I laid her on my velvet chaise longue, surrounded by brass orreries and stacks of star charts that now felt utterly meaningless. She sat up, her movements fluid and ethereal, as if she were still navigating the weightlessness of the void. She didn't speak. Instead, she tilted her head back and let out a sound, a cascade of crystalline chimes, a melodic sequence of tones that resonated in the very marrow of my bones. Nova, I whispered, the name coming to me as if whispered by the wind itself. You are a nova. But as I watched her, my scientific mind, the part of me that refuses to sleep, noticed the horror hidden beneath the beauty. Her silver light wasn't steady. It was flickering. Every time she breathed the thick, oxygen-rich air of Earth, the glow dimmed. The planet was a poison to her. The gravity was a cage. She was a falling star, and like all falling stars, she was destined to go out. I am a woman of science. I have spent my life preserving specimens, fixing broken lenses, and documenting the immutable laws of the galaxy. But as I stood there in the flickering gaslight, looking into the eyes of a girl who was literally made of heaven, I made a silent vow. I would not let her fade. I would turn every telescope, every lens, and every scrap of knowledge I possessed toward the singular goal of keeping her light alive. The hunt for Planet X was over. The hunt for her survival had begun. I didn't know then that saving a star would mean breaking my own world. I didn't know that the price of her light would be my own shadow. But as she reached out and touched the gold chain of my chronometer, her fingers leaving a trail of stardust on my skin, I knew I would pay any price to keep the universe from going dark again. "Stay," I whispered, clutching her cold, shimmering hand. "Stay, and I will show you that even on this heavy, muddy earth, there is a reason to keep burning." She looked at me, her violet eyes softening, and for the first time in 41 years, the silence of the universe didn't feel indifferent. It felt like a beginning. The laboratory was no longer a place of sterile observation. It had become a sanctuary of desperate alchemy. For 3 weeks, the blizzard has kept the world away, burying the observatory in a tomb of white, while inside, the laws of physics are being rewritten in the shadow of my greatest telescope. Nova sits by the hearth, wrapped in my heaviest wool coat, her silver skin casting a pale, flickering glow against the mahogany bookshelves. She is fading. I see it in the way her light no longer reaches the corners of the room. I see it in the way her translucent hair has begun to turn a dull, human gray at the tips. Earth is a heavy mistress, and she is pulling my star down into the dirt. I have spent every waking hour at my drafting table, surrounded by shattered lenses and frantic calculations. My hands are stained with graphite and grease, my eyes bloodshot from staring through the eyepiece at the constellations that birthed her. I am trying to build a cage for the light, a resonator made of brass and quartz that can capture the radiation of the Lyra constellation and funnel it into her failing marrow. I am a doctor trying to heal a patient whose anatomy is made of fusion and dreams. "Morgan," she says. The sound of my name in her voice is a miracle. It took her 10 days to learn the phonetics of human speech, and she speaks as if she is tasting the words for the first time, each syllable a fragile glass ornament. She moves toward my desk, her footsteps making no sound on the floorboards. She touches the brass casing of my sextant, and for a moment, the metal glows with a faint, dying spark. "The sky is calling," she whispers, looking up through the glass dome at the cold, indifferent points of light above us. I can hear the rhythm of the pulsars. They are singing a funeral march, Morgan. I am becoming heavy. I am becoming stone. "No," I say, my voice harsh with a terror I cannot permit myself to feel. I stand up, taking her hands in mine. They are so cold, not the cold of ice, but the cold of the deep void between galaxies. I am building the resonator, Nova, the great refractor telescope. I can realign the primary lens. If I can catch the light of the blue giant at the moment of its zenith, I can stabilize your essence. I can anchor you here. She looks at me, and her violet eyes are filled with a pity that breaks my heart. And why would you anchor a bird to a mountain of lead? Why would you keep a star in a room of shadows? Because the room was dark before you fell. I snap, the truth escaping me like a wound. I pull back, ashamed of my own selfishness. I am a scientist. I am supposed to be objective, but how can I be objective when the sun is sitting in my living room, drinking tea and shivering? To distract her, to distract myself, I show her the world she has fallen into. I bring her a cup of Earl Grey tea, showing her how the steam curls in the air. I watch her face as she tastes the bitterness and the honey, her eyes widening at the sensory overload of a world that isn't just light and gravity. I take her to the balcony, even in the cold, and let the rain fall on her upturned face. She laughs, a sound like silver bells, at the sensation of water hitting skin. "It is so loud," she whispers, feeling the rain. "The stars are quiet. They only shine. But here, the mud speaks. The water feels. The heart hammers like a trapped moth." She reaches out and places her hand over my chest. Through the layers of my velvet waistcoat, she feels the frantic beat of my pulse. Her touch is different today. It doesn't hum with electricity. It feels soft, human. It is the most terrifying thing I have ever experienced. She is losing her divinity, and I am losing my mind. Is this what it is to be a person, Morgan? She asks. Her face inches from mine in the dim light of the oil lamps. To feel this thumping in the dark. To know that every beat is a second gone. To live in fear of the silence. Yes, I whisper, my breath hitching as I look at her fading luminescence. It is a tragedy, but it is a beautiful one, because we are not alone in the dark. We have each other. We have the tea, and the rain, and the beating of the heart. I lean in, drawn by a gravity that no telescope could ever measure. My lips brush hers, and for a fleeting second, the old Nova returns. A surge of pure, blinding energy crashes through me, a vision of supernovas, of the birth of nebulas, of the infinite, terrifying expanse of the cosmos. It is a kiss that tastes of lightning and old stars. But as I pull away, I see the price. The spark I felt came from her core, and now she is paler than she was a minute ago. I am accidentally consuming her. Every moment of intimacy, every touch, every human emotion she feels drains the celestial battery that keeps her alive. To love her is to extinguish her. I turn back to my drafting table with a renewed, desperate fury. I cannot touch her again. I cannot look at her with the hunger of a lonely woman. I must be the professor. I must be the engineer. If I want her to live, I must treat her like a dying sun, not a girl. I must build the resonator, even if it means destroying the great refractor, my life's work, the lens that was supposed to find Planet X. I will save you, Nova, I say to the blueprints, my back turned so she cannot see the tears blurring the ink, even if I have to pull the sky down and pin it to the earth, even if I have to spend the rest of my life in the dark to keep you glowing. Outside, the storm rages on, the wind howling through the brass vents of the dome. In the corner, Nova begins to hum a song that has no words, a song of the void, a song of longing, and I realize, with a cold shiver, that the great refractor won't be enough. To save a star, a sacrifice of glass is nothing. The universe demands a sacrifice of the soul. The night of the great alignment has arrived, and the air inside the observatory is so charged with static that my hair stands on end. The copper rods I've installed along the dome's rafters hum with a low, predatory vibration. Outside, the Pyrenees are silent, bathed in a cruel, mocking moonlight. Tonight, the blue giant star in the heart of the Lyra constellation reaches its zenith, its light traveling across the terrifying expanse of time, just to witness my desperation. I stand before the great refractor, the massive brass telescope that has been my only companion for 2 decades. My hands, calloused and stained with industrial grease, tremble as I begin to dismantle the primary housing. I am committing scientific heresy. To save Nova, I must shatter the crown jewel of my career, the primary lens, a masterpiece of hand-ground flint glass, is the only thing capable of focusing the raw, celestial energy needed to jumpstart her fading essence. But to use it as a conductor will crack it. It will turn my window to the universe into a pile of useless shards. Morgan, stop. Nova's voice drifts from the shadows of the mezzanine. She is barely a silhouette now. The silver glow that once illuminated the entire dome has retracted into a faint, ghostly outline around her heart. She looks fragile, like an image reflected in a disturbed pool of water. She walks toward me, her gait heavy and halting, the weight of the earth finally winning the battle against her stardust. She reaches out, her pale hand catching the glint of the brass gears. "You are breaking your world to fix mine," she whispers. "The great refractor. It is your eye. Without it, you are blind to the things you love." "I am not blind," I say, my voice sounding like grinding stone as I loosen the final bolt. I have spent 40 years looking at the light of dead things, thousands of light years away. It was cold, Nova. It was beautiful, but it was dead. You are the first light I have ever held that felt warm. I carefully extract the massive lens, cradling it in my arms like a sacrificial offering. I place it into the resonator, a complex web of copper coils and quartz crystals I've built in the center of the room. This is the crucible. Step into the center, Nova, I command, my heart hammering against my ribs. When the star reaches the meridian, I will open the aperture. The light will pass through the lens, through the crystals, and into you. It will anchor your frequency to the earth. You will be stable. You will live. She steps into the circle of copper, her violet eyes wide with a mixture of awe and sorrow. And what will I be, Morgan? If I stay, if I become stable, will I still be the star you found in the crater? You will be here, I say, the words catching in my throat. That is all that matters. The clockwork mechanism of the dome begins to groan. The massive slit in the roof slides open, revealing a vertical strip of the midnight sky. The blue giant sits there, a cold, piercing diamond in the black. I check my chronometer. 10 seconds. My breath hitches. I am terrified that my math is wrong. I am terrified that I am not a genius, but a madwoman playing with a power I don't understand. 3, 2, 1. I pull the lever. The world vanishes. A pillar of pure, violet white light crashes down from the heavens, striking the primary lens with the force of a physical blow. The sound is like 1,000 bells shattering at once. The resonator screams, the quartz crystals glowing so brightly they become transparent. In the center of the storm, Nova is lifted off her feet. Her white gown billows around her, and for a moment, the room is filled with the terrifying majesty of the cosmos. I see the birth of suns, the collision of galaxies, the infinite swirling dance of atoms. "Morgan," she cries out, and her voice is no longer music. It is a human scream, raw and terrified. A massive crack echoes through the dome. The primary lens, my beautiful, perfect lens, splits down the middle, a jagged line of fire tearing through the glass. The light begins to bleed out, unfocused and wild. The copper coils start to melt, dripping like liquid gold onto the floor. "Hold on," I yell, throwing myself toward the control panel, my skin blistering from the heat of the discharge. I see the energy draining away, dissipating into the stone walls instead of into her. The anchor isn't holding. She is slipping through the cracks of the universe. In a moment of pure, unthinking instinct, I reach into the field of energy. I don't use a tool. I don't use a machine. I grab her hand, my human flesh acting as the final conductor. The shock is absolute. It is not pain. It is a total erasure of self. My memories, my logic, my name, everything is swept away by the current of her being. I am the mountain. I am the sky. I am the dark matter between the stars. And then I feel it. The tether, my heartbeat, my heavy, rhythmic, human heartbeat, becomes the metronome for her light. I am not saving her with science. I am saving her with the pulse of my own life. The light flares one last time, a blinding supernova that fills every corner of the observatory. And then, silence. The smell of ozone and burnt copper is overwhelming. The only light left comes from a few small fires burning in the debris of my equipment. I am lying on the floor, my arms scorched, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I look toward the center of the room. The resonator is a blackened husk. The great refractor is a skeleton of brass and broken glass. But there, amidst the wreckage, lies a woman. She isn't glowing. Her skin is a soft, warm cream color. Her hair is no longer translucent. It is a thick, snowy white. She is breathing, deep, steady breaths that move her chest in a way that is unmistakably beautifully human. I crawl toward her, my strength failing. Nova. She opens her eyes. The nebulae are gone. Her eyes are now a deep, clear violet, but they have pupils. They have depth. They look at me, and they see me, not as a collection of atoms, but as a person. Morgan, she whispers. It's not a chime anymore. It's a voice. It's warm. She reaches out and touches my cheek. Her hand isn't cold. It's hot with life. But as I look up at the broken telescope, I realize the cost. The sky is quiet. The stars are just points of light again, distant and unreachable. I am no longer a professor of the great beyond. I am just a woman on a mountain with a broken eye. It's gone, I whisper, looking at the shattered glass. Everything I built. Nova pulls me close, her heart beating against mine in a perfect synchronized rhythm. No, she says, her voice steady. We are just beginning to see. But even as she speaks, I hear a sound from the mountain path below. The village bells are ringing. People are coming. They saw the light. They saw the falling star. And I realize that keeping a star on Earth is only half the battle. Now, I have to protect her from the world that wants to tear her apart. The bells of the valley are no longer a distant melody. They are a frantic alarm, a metal heartbeat echoing against the jagged cliffs. Torches flicker like angry orange stars on the winding mountain path, drawing closer with every breath. The village has seen the violet flare. They have heard the sky scream. To them, this is not a miracle of physics or a tragedy of glass. It is a portent of doom, a devil's light lit by the mad professor. On the peak, I look at the ruins of my life's work, the twisted brass and the weeping mercury, and then I look at the woman in my arms. They are coming, I whisper, my voice raw from the ozone. Nova, my Nova, no longer a star, but a creature of flesh and blood, clutches my scorched sleeve. She doesn't tremble with the celestial vibration anymore. She shivers with the simple, primal chill of a winter night. Her skin is no longer a lamp. It is a map of human warmth. She is no longer an inhabitant of the void. She is a resident of the mountain. Let them come, she says, her voice gaining a strength that feels like the foundation of the earth. They cannot take what they do not understand, Morgan. They see the fire, but they do not know the warmth. I pull her up, her bare feet finding purchase on the cold stone floor. I don't go to the door to bar it. Instead, I lead her to the balcony, the place where she first fell, where the air is still thick with the scent of singed heather. The crowd is at the gates now, their voices a dull roar beneath the whistling wind. They call for explanations. They call for the thing that fell from the sky. I step out into the light of their torches, but I do not hide her. I stand beside her, my hand firmly entwined with hers. My heavy blue velvet dress is singed. My face is smeared with graphite, and my silvered hair is a wild mess. I must look like a specter to them, the guardian of a fallen goddess. Go back, I roar, my voice amplified by the natural acoustics of the stone dome. There is nothing here but the aftermath of an experiment. The sky has finished its business with this mountain. The crowd hesitates. They look at the broken dome, the smoke curling from the vents, and then they look at Nova. In the flickering orange light of their own fire, she looks like a saint, her snowy hair glowing with a soft, residual light that they cannot name. To them, she is too beautiful to be a demon, and too human to be a star. The professor has lost her mind, someone yells from the back, but the conviction is gone. They see a woman protecting another woman. They see a house that has been broken. The fear turns into a confused, murmuring pity. Slowly, the torches begin to turn back toward the valley. The mystery is too large for them, and the cold is too real. When the last light fades from the path, I turn to Nova. The silence that follows is heavy, weighted with the finality of what we have done. The great refractor is dead, I say, looking back at the dark skeleton of the telescope. I will never find Planet X. I will never write another paper that the Academy will accept. I have traded the universe for a handful of heartbeats. Nova steps closer, her violet eyes reflecting the deep, dark velvet of the night sky. She takes my hand and places it over her chest. The beat is there, strong, rhythmic, and undeniably permanent. "You didn't trade the universe, Morgan," she whispers. "You brought it inside. You spent your life looking through glass at things you could never touch. You studied the light because you were afraid of the dark. But look," she gestures to the horizon, where the first faint line of dawn is beginning to bruise the sky with indigo and rose. The stars are still there. They don't need you to watch them to exist. But I needed you to see me to become real. You didn't lose your eye, Morgan. You found your heart. We spend the morning clearing the debris, not as a scientist and her specimen, but as two souls building a home. I realize that I don't need the great refractor to know that the cosmos is infinite. I feel the infinity when I watch Nova taste a piece of bread, her face lighting up with the simple joy of sustenance. I see the birth of galaxies in the way she smiles when the sun hits the mountain peaks. I keep my star charts, but now I use them to tell her stories of her sisters in the sky. We live in the observatory, the mad professor, and the lady of the snows. The world eventually forgets us, leaving us to our mountain and our silence. I never found Planet X, but every night, as I lie beside a woman who smells of lilies and rain, I realize that I found something much rarer. I found a reason to stay on the ground. In the end, science didn't save us. Logic didn't bridge the gap between the heavens and the earth. It was the simple, terrifying, beautiful weight of a human heart. And as the years pass, and my own hair turns as white as the snow, I look at the shattered primary lens that sits on my mantle, a jagged, broken piece of glass that once saw the edge of the world. I don't regret the cracks, because through those cracks, the light finally got in.